Does he remember his first meeting with Yoshi Amatai, then a young interpreter in the occupying army? It was the 1st of November 1967. The Israeli military governor was worried about a forthcoming Palestinian demonstration against the occupation. He suspected the doctor of being one of the leaders and sent for him. Faced with the silence of the doctor, he became abusive. Yoshi Amatai had to translate. The doctor noticed his embarrassment. A bond was formed between them. Throughout the 70s, Dr. Abdel Shafi and Yoshi Amatai met secretly in Jerusalem, contravening the law which until 1993 forbade all contact between Israelis and Palestinians belonging to the PLO. "17 years later, they resumed their talks with questions on the problems of the inevitable partition.
Wounds will never heal wounds.
There is a very painful, very fundamental problem which underlies the Palestinian tragedy, which is the refugees problem. And can any solution to the Palestinian national problem be imagined without solving the refugees problem? And how can it be solved?
Well, really, this gets us back to 1948. Now, in 1948, and although admittedly, and if you go back to the Zionist archives, same thing, and what Ben-Gurion said when the question of partition was discussed in Zionist circles, Israel accepted the partition as an interim acceptance. But their objective was to occupy all of Palestine. This was said
but the Palestinians played into their hands.
Bluntly, yes. So Israel exploited what happened in 1948 and in collusion with King Abdullah and occupied 22% more of Palestinian territory, more than was allotted to them by the partition resolution. And of course, a good part of the refugees were uprooted, the Palestinian refugees were uprooted from their homes by terror and force, and some of them simply fled spontaneously because they were afraid for their lives. It is the imperative of fairness and justice that their rights should be respected. Now I know that their homes, those villages, 340 villages or whatever it is, it was razed to the ground immediately after they were dispensed so that Israel will protest. There is no place for them. Okay, but they still have the right to be repatriated on Palestinian territory. Now I think in the emergence of a Palestinian state, I am sure, I think all Palestinians who are forced out of their lands have the right to become Palestinian citizens. And
you mean in the state of Palestine or in the state of Israel?
No, I mean, of course, in the state of Palestine. It is their right. You know, I'm responding to the question whether the Palestinian state is the state of all Palestinians, wherever they are. Yes, I think it is the state of all Palestinians and their offspring who were driven out of Palestinian territories.
But whereas the Palestinians are, asserting their right of return as an internationally recognized, they are against the law of return of the State of Israel. Now, this again, you see, breeds the paranoia of many Israelis. You see, since the very raison d'etre of the State of Israel is to be a shelter for Jews who are persecuted, wherever they are persecuted, and for that purpose, the law of return was enacted, then everybody who is against it, this is the way it is perceived by many of us, everybody who is against it is in fact against the very existence of the State of Israel. So why is it that the Palestinians so fiercely are against the law of return?
You see, there are contradictions there, I'm sorry to say. While you say that Israel was established to be a haven for persecuted Jews, in practice, the situation is not like this. Zionism has been inciting and doing everything, even to dislodge Jews from wherever they are living in happiness and equity, and to force them to migrate to Israel. And the examples are very many. Now, it is a commonplace knowledge that Zionism bombed synagogues in Iraq to compel Jews to leave Iraq and to come to Israel. Now, this doesn't coincide with the claim that Israel was established to be a haven for persecuted Jews. Why it is so? You can't claim this.
No, this is the reason why the United Nations Committee for Palestine, back in 1947, voted for the creation of a Jewish state in a part of Palestine as a haven for the survivors of the Holocaust, which is, I think, it's a tragedy which can hardly be defined. You see, and now the lessons of the Holocaust was that we need a safe shelter, we need a state, in other words, things that could be, postponed for a while, put off for a while, became urgent all of a sudden. So nobody could expect that the Arabs lived under the fear that they are going to be dispossessed. The Jews, of course, with much self-righteousness, but maybe the drive of the persecutions and the suffering, made them minimize or made them, feel self-righteous. We deserve it because we suffered. See, now whoever objected the idea that Jews came to Palestine in order to have a state in the land of their forefathers, etc., whoever objected to it, and I admit that the Palestinians had good reasons for objecting it, is in fact continuing. So was the Jewish mind. Is in fact continuing what Hitler couldn't accomplish. So we connected the Holocaust to the struggle for Jewish independence in Palestine, and it is with us up to today. And let me tell you, more than that, the stronger we grow, the more afraid we are. You see, because whether we admit it or not, we know that some injustice has been committed here. You don't want to admit it. And we grow more arrogant. And the more arrogant we grow, we are afraid of the revenge. You see, we are afraid of the anger of the victims of what we think is our justice.
How can you break this vicious circle of your thinking about?
We come back to the late Simcha Flapan by admitting it, by demystifying, by, by trying to know, to learn more, to get into the Palestinian mind, you see, and I'm not quite sure that we are capable of doing so.
How can they understand each other in the face of such denial? That's the question kept alive by the refugees from the camps of 1948. After the Six-Day War, Israel occupied the Gaza Strip, and it was in the refugee camps that Palestinian resistance hardened. Each side denied the existence of the other and rejected the UN Resolution 242 that demanded that one party should leave the territory taken by force and that the other should recognize the Jewish state. Over the years, Israeli occupation became more repressive, until in December 87 there was an explosion amongst the Palestinian youth in Jabalia. An appeal was launched for recognition, an appeal for coexistence, Intifada.
I think the Intifada was the first time that Israeli society realized that there's a big problem there in the occupied territories. I think until the Intifada, we didn't see the Palestinians. They didn't exist. I mean, they were cleaning in the streets, they were working in the construction buildings, but they didn't exist as a people, as human beings. Most people didn't see them at all. And the Intifada was a very strong message. We are here, you cannot ignore us. Here, this is our problem, and this is your problem as well, and you have to face it.
אין לצבא הזה, שאני הייתי המג"ד שלו, הייתי אז מח"ט כאילו, כי היה לי איזה מין, כל כך הרבה פלוגות, היה לי 13 פלוגות, אני לא ידעתי איפה, מי ומה בחוברת מרוב הכוחות שהיו לי. לא ידענו מה לעשות, הרי אנחנו יכולים רק להכות, וזה גם היו הפקודות, כי מה תעשה מול אבן? תכה. מה תזרוק אבנים בחזרה? אתה צבא, אתה מסודר עם גומיות, נעליים תוכתחות בבוקר, מגולח. כן? אתה מאיים, אתה אומר, אם יהיה עוד, אני אעשה פה עוד שקט, ועוד שקט פה, ועוד שקט, ועוד הסדר פה עם הכפר. עם הדברים האלה, הממשלה שלי תגיע עם מישהו להבנה. אבל הממשלה שלי לא הגיעה עם אף אחד להבנה, כי לא היה להגיע עם אף אחד. היה חייב לעבור את המטמורפוזה הזאת של המהפכה שהם עשו, הם היו חייבים לעבור. ואז ילדים בני 13 ואנשים בני 21 ובחורות ובחורים. אין לגביי, הם לוחמים, הם לוחמי חירות. זה המילה. עכשיו אני בצד שמדכא את לוחמי החירות. זה נפל בגורלי.
The mothers, they don't have any control over their children. If they want even to stop them from going out the streets and throw stones at the soldiers, they couldn't. And they had seen the effect. These soldiers became hurt. They were running in front of these children. So it became a victory for these children because they became very powerful persons. But this had an effect on the Palestinian family itself. After the Intifada had stopped, and now we are starting to construct our country. At the beginning, it was very difficult to bring these children back to schools and to their homes. And even to the authority of their parents. For them, the word authority, it meant only occupation.
We were offered the choice, forsake or unite.
There is no way except for mutual respect by both people for mutual rights. Now, we did our part. We adopted a peace initiative that accepted the principle of the two-state solution.